All right, we're back on CentralValleyTalk.com. Thank you for being with us today. I'm Mike Scott, joined by the man behind the Aquarius Aquarium here in Fresno, Tom Lang. 34 years. Aquarius has been around, right?
Well, that's right. Not the public aquarium plans, but
Aquarius Aquarium.
Our company, Aquarius Aquarium, Inc., now it's incorporated, was founded by my wife and I back 34 years ago in 1980. We're coming up on 35 years next year. And that company installs and maintains aquariums in offices and people's homes. And we do the design work. We work with interior designers and architects. And when people are building in those big wall aquariums like you see on the television shows, Tanked and the other shows that
you
see.
The Vegas hotels have them.
Exactly. And that's what our company's been doing all these years. And so it was a natural outgrowth from that company to then in 2000 form a nonprofit educational institute, and that's what we did, the Aquarius Aquarium Institute, which is an outgrowth of Aquarius Aquarium.
Okay, and you told me in 2006 is when you got donated that 10 acres of land out there at Herndon and 99.
That's right.
Where you're still trying to build the aquarium.
Now, I know people think we've been doing this for 100 years.
It seems that way sometimes.
It does seem like that. But we're a nonprofit that's raising money from a grassroots kind of level. I mean, these are little donations. We are selling blocks, these concrete blocks, to get us over the last hump. And since we began this in well, really, it wasn't until 2003 that we started serious fundraising for it. We've raised over $5 million toward that project. Now, that includes the land, and it includes major exhibits that were donated to us from the Steinhardt Aquarium in San Francisco.
Which you have in storage
Which
right
we
now,
have in
right?
storage for like 5 different storage areas throughout Fresno. And so the exhibits are ready to go, but we've got to have a building to put them in.
Yeah.
So that's the final push now, is to get that Phase 1 building started.
So the $5 million figure, you said, includes the land and the donations.
Yes.
So how much cash do you have sitting in
So
the bank?
cash, we've spent it as we went along. And we had to go through the entitlement process. So in 2006, the land was donated to us, but it was not zoned for an aquarium. It wasn't zoned for anything except for agriculture. So we had to go to the county and submit our plans and get the approvals to build this aquarium that we wanted to build. Then we had to go to the city of Fresno and ask them to include us in their sphere of influence. That took us another 3 years, so it wasn't until 2009, April 15th, I'll always remember that day, tax day, was the day that they actually approved the, it's not an annexation, but it is a expansion of the city of Fresno sphere of influence. And since the year 2000, there's only been 2 expansions of the city of Fresno sphere of influence. One is the southeast growth area, known as SEGA, and the second was the aquarium property. So it was like an act of Congress. It was like we had to go through all this. We had to do environmental studies. We had to show what our impact was going to be on the land and on the area. So you go through that entire thing, not a full EIR, but an environmental assessment where it's submitted that you'll have minimal impact on the land, on the river that's right there. And, here's what you need to build. So that we had to go through all that before we could even start saying, okay, how do we design this now? So we had concepts of what we wanted to do. We have a very large aquarium design for the future, but we realized in 2010 that we were going to have to scale that down to a smaller building.
Do it in phases.
And even Phase 1 that's in the picture behind us will be built in phases. So Phase 1 will have Phase 1A, Phase 1B, and that's the only way we can do it.
Yeah.
And so our hope is within the next couple of years to have that first building built, and we'll be able to actually start having programs out there on the property.
All right,
but it's going to take a couple of years.
It seems like you've been saying to me for years now, in the next couple of years,
I know.
we're going to see something out there. In the next couple of really now it's to the point
we
where
are getting really close. We now have
people want to see something on that plot of land out there.
We're going to have to build 4 walls and a roof to start, and it's not going to be anything all that spectacular, but it will eventually be the basement for the building that you see in the picture behind us. So we're going to build it in such a way, and that's what we've been working on, is the value engineering with Arthur Dyson, our architect, Bob Parrish, our structural engineer, and they've designed this in such a way that we can build that first building and then add a second story onto it later, and add that exhibit hall later. So we've got to break it up.
The first building will be all the mechanics for the aquarium, the pumps and the tanks?
That's ultimately what's going to go down there. But what we're going to do to begin with, that will actually be a little working aquarium. You'll actually be able to come there and see fish, even in the basement. So yes, when we build the second floor and then the large exhibit hall, then that will become exclusively the pumps and the quarantine area and all of that. But for the beginning, when we're first built out there, we have those 4 walls and a roof, and we actually have an enclosed building. We will have a few tanks in there that people will be able to come and see fish the very beginnings of our collection.
It sounds like this may never be finished. Like you'll keep adding on
Well,
to
no,
it.
that's kind of true. You know, things like zoos and aquariums are constantly expanding, and they have to. You can't just start and say, well, we're only going to build this little thing and stay there, because if you don't grow, you die. You have to have a new exhibit, a new attraction on a very regular basis. Probably an annual basis is a good idea. I think our own Chaffee Zoo has shown that when they open a new exhibit, the attendance goes way up because people want to see that new thing. So they've got the right idea. All zoos and aquariums operate in that same way. Monterey started actually very small, and they've expanded into the Outer Bay exhibit. Now it's called the Open Sea, and they've expanded into other areas where they've increased their square footage. But they're stuck. You know, they have a hotel next to them and the ocean on the other side, so they're only 3.5 acres.
It's pretty small, yeah.
We have 10 acres out there that was donated to us, and I think that's great for the future.
The river running right along.
Hope we
the
see it in
front of
our
yeah.
lifetime, but I mean,
I hope
I would
so.
love to fill up that 10 acres. You can imagine a big aquarium along the river, interpreting the San Joaquin River, so we'll have fish from our own watershed. Our own Fresno Aquarium will be unique to Fresno. It won't be like Monterey or Long Beach. It'll be its own story of water here in our valley, and we know how critical that is.
Absolutely. So do you have fundraisers coming up?
We do. Coming up this weekend, actually, is Salmon Fest out at Lost Lake.
Salmon Fest.
Yes, we actually have a booth out at Salmon Fest, and we talk about salmon and how they historically lived in our river, and there is an effort to restore the San Joaquin River. A little tough to do in a drought right now,
Yeah.
but at least we're celebrating the idea of salmon out there. It's Lost Lake on Saturday all day. People can come out at any time and enjoy that. The following weekend, Jamba Juice has just opened a new location at Herndon and Riverside, which is out by Golden State on the west, very close to the aquarium. We call it the Aquarium Jamba Juice. And for the first day, their grand opening day on the 15th of November, 20% of their sales goes toward the Fresno Aquarium.
Not bad.
So that's on the 15th. And then there's also a paint around here in the Tower District at the Fresno Art Hub. 5 artists are painting paintings, and the proceeds of that, half of the proceeds will go to the aquarium, the other half will go to Valley Public Radio.
Okay. Website for people that want information?
FresnoAquarium.org. It's really easy. It's the Fresno Aquarium. So FresnoAquarium.org. Buy a block, make a donation in any size. It's grassroots, and it is tax deductible. So,
All right. Tom, thank you so much for coming in
thank
today.
you so much, Mike.
Tom Lang from the Aquarius Aquarium. We will have an aquarium out there.
We will.
Within 2 years. Well, the first phase within 2 years. You heard it here. All right, we'll be back with more on Central Valley Talk.